Hello there, my name is Alice and I have the November Paletteful Premiere Pack here in front of me. I cannot wait, so let's open this up and see what goodies we have inside today. All right, everything in here is blue. This is the Sketching Going Dark pack for November 2020. So let's see what's inside. Move all of the crinkly goodness out of the way. So the first thing that we have here is this Lyra Sketching Set. So there are an assortment of pencils in here. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Okay, so it is in this little metal case. Love that. Okay, so this has 6 pencils. This is an assortment of top quality pencils with extra durable leads, and this is a good balance between oil-based and oil-free pencils, so you can use these for sketching and then drawing on top. So we have a Rembrandt Charcoal, a Rembrandt Carbon, and a Rembrandt Carbon Extra Dark. The carbon pencils are a combination of charcoal and graphite, which is going to make them very soft to use. Then we have the Sanguine Pencil, which is an oil-based grease pencil, ideal for portraits, life drawing, and landscapes. And then we also have 2 more dry pencils. We have a Sepia Light and a White Pastel, which is going to be perfect for highlighting light areas in the composition. The next thing I see in here are 2 of these pencils, blue pencils. These are by Staedtler. They are the Mars Lumograph pencils. We have 10B and 11B, so these are going to be really, really nice and dark. So these are extra soft and extra soft. And the lead is bonded to it over the entire length of the pencil, which is supposed to help prevent the lead core from breaking, which is great. The next thing we have is this Lyra Hexagonal Crayon Holder. This holds hexagonal crayons 11 to 12 millimeters in diameter, which means it's going to hold this perfect right there. This is a graphite crayon that we have from Lyra. It is 9B, so it's going to be great for doing the background shading and just shading in general because it's nice and large, so we can use it on its side and really fill in large areas. We also have a pencil sharpener, which is really, really important so we can keep our pencils nice and sharp. This is also by Lyra, and it is a high quality sharpener with a superior stainless steel blade. The last tool that we have in here is a Paletteful Packs and Blackwing pencil collaboration. So this is limited edition and it features a firm and smooth graphite core that is going to deliver on the Blackwing promise, which is half the pressure and twice the speed. Normally these can only be purchased in boxes of 12, but this is a limited edition pencil collaboration. So that is really, really awesome. And it's got this nice flat eraser, which I really like. The last thing in here is our surface, and this is illustration board. These are Crescent cold press illustration boards, and this is a 3 pack. So they're going to be perfect for all pencil, colored pencil, pastel, and ink applications. They are 8x10 professional grade. And because they're cold pressed, they're going to have just a little bit of tooth, but not too much tooth like a rough paper would. So that is perfect. Okay, so this is everything that you're going to get in the November 2020 Going Dark Paletteful Premiere Pack. So yeah, I am really excited. Let's grab this illustration board, grab some of these pencils, and let's go ahead and start sketching. Okay, so the first thing that I did was play around with all of the different pencils in my sketchbook so that I could get a feel for how they looked and how they worked and different ways to make marks with them and how they would like smudge and blend out and all of that. And I just kind of did a couple little doodles. I tried to kind of figure out what I wanted to draw and I wasn't really sure. Like I thought maybe I would draw just like a face, maybe a house or something. And eventually I just decided to set up a little still life and draw that because that seemed like I didn't have to make too many decisions, just draw what was in front of me. So I set up a little still life and that I thought would look nice in the colors of the pencils. And I started by sketching everything out just loosely in the Paletteful Packs and Blackwing pencil collaboration. So I start out by trying to get the general shapes of the objects, like just kind of establishing where everything's going to be. I am not worried too much about all the little details yet. I'm just kind of setting the scene, and then I can go in and I can start adding more details in. That's going to keep me from spending a bunch of time on one area and then finding out that I've drawn it way too big or way too small. It really helps to just kind of start with the overall shapes first and then kind of add in more of the details as you go. So I just used the regular pencil for that because like it was one that I was most comfortable with. It had an eraser on the back and I was like, okay, let's start with this. So I'm definitely more of a wet media artist. I'm more of a painter than a drawer. So working with so many pencils have me a little bit intimidated. So I was like, okay, I'll start with the familiar regular Blackwing pencil. I also use a little bit of a kneaded eraser that I have to lighten it up. And then I decided to go in with this big, thick, chunky graphite crayon to establish some of the darks in the backgrounds because I felt like that would be a good way to kind of start separating out the still life from the background and have all of the shapes start to pop out because I wanted to make sure that you could kind of see what was going on and that I had created a good balance between light and dark. So I started by establishing that. Then I just kind of started playing around with different combinations of ways to layer the pencils and use the different pencils. I wasn't really sure of the specific ways that I wanted to use them, so I just kind of worked by instinct. I mixed the sanguine pencil, which is oil-based, and so it's like a little bit more like greasy kind of feeling, not greasy, but like waxy resistant, and then you have more of the chalky pencils. And so those don't always play well together, but you can get really interesting effects. So I was kind of playing around with how I could use those on top of the other and different like mark making things. I was using the carbon and charcoal pencils over on this bottle because this bottle was really, really dark. So I decided that way it would be darker even than the background because the background was graphite. So it was more of that kind of darker gray. So I went in with those charcoal and carbon pencils and I was able to get that really, really dark black. And I used that as kind of a base. So I also used the 10B pencil a lot, as well as the 11B, but for some reason I kept finding myself going to the 10B. I'm not sure why, but I used those to add in a lot of the shading, and I kind of started to find a rhythm of jumping back and forth between using the 10B and 11B pencils to shade, and then using the sanguine pencil to add in a little bit more definition as well as some color. Some areas I used it more heavily than others, depending on what those areas were colored in real life. Like the bottle that I'm working on right now is actually like a copper colored bottle. So I used it a lot more heavily in that than in like the string. And I kind of wanted to make sure that I was distributing things evenly and things like that. And then I would just use the like 10B and 11B on top and under the sanguine pencil. And those worked pretty well in conjunction with each other to create some really nice shading effects. I also, because the paper that I got was cream, the white didn't show up as much as a highlight because it wasn't like a toned paper, but I was able to actually use the white to kind of blend some of the pencils and the shading in some really interesting ways and kind of darken some areas, which worked well for adding some more of the subtle shading that you see in bottles and things like that. And I wasn't going for like hyper realism here. There was a lot of reflections and things that I honestly didn't end up depicting, but I was just kind of trying to capture the little still life that I had in front of me, and I was just having a good time. So that was kind of all that really mattered. I also did use the darker brown, like a sepia pencil, a little bit more. That one was more chalky, but I used that a lot of times in combination more with the charcoal and carbon pencils to get really darker browns. And I found that the oil-based pencil, the grease pencil, that one you could really layer up over all of the chalk ones a lot more easily than obviously vice versa. So I took advantage of that, especially towards the end, to make certain things pop out a lot more and add a little bit more of a illustrative vibe to the piece. I really enjoyed that pencil. I think it was my favorite one out of all of them, but it was really fun to try all of the different pencils and just kind of experiment with how they worked together. I definitely recommend, if you have this pack, just really like try all the different combinations of ways that you can mark make with these pencils and ways that you can use them together and which ones work together and which ones don't work together, or like what different effects you can get, because I was definitely pleasantly surprised by some of the results that I got. Here I was using the darker pastel first, and then I went and used the oil more on top, and that worked definitely a lot better than the other way around. And then I could go in and kind of add in more shading and definition with the graphite pencils. So yeah, that was kind of my technique. I am hoping that I explained that well. Like I said, pencils are not really my native medium, I guess. And so this was a learning experience for me, but I had a lot of fun with it. And I kind of felt like I was back in school working on a still life, which was pretty enjoyable, actually. Kind of felt like I was working on some old skills and, I don't know, kind of doing something that's beneficial for me as an artist. I think it's good to take time sometimes and, I don't know, kind of do stuff that you might have done in school, just because there's a reason that we had those exercises. And sometimes I don't go back to basics, and it can be good to go back to basics and do like a little still life here and there if you don't normally do still lifes, or a portrait if you don't normally do portraits. I don't know. So at this point, I was getting pretty tired and I really wasn't sure about this area in the corner. And I decided just to blend the whole thing back in with the background. And I'm actually really, really glad I did. There was actually stuff there in the still life, and in part I covered it up because of laziness, but it ended up creating this really cool triangular like pyramid composition that I think works a lot better than if I had filled it in. And it kept it from being too distracting because there's definitely a lot going on in here. So I'm actually really glad I made that decision, even if it was like primarily motivated from laziness. This is where I went back in with that grease pencil and emphasized these leaves a little bit more so they really stuck out. And this is where I felt like the piece really finally started to come together. And I was really actually pretty happy with it. And I think it came out pretty cool. I really loved this illustration board. It was so, so nice to work on. And I just want to draw all of the things on it now. So I might play around with like colored pencil, or maybe even ink on it, and see how it works. So that is it for this video. I hope you liked what I created, and I can't wait to see what you all created. If you'd like to get your own subscription to Paletteful packs, then there is a link in the description box below that you can click to go to our website. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!